Hey, I'm Callie Lewis. You're watching Geek Brief TV. This is Brief 406. This is Mike Mann, Director of Communications at Digital Rapids. Digital Rapids is the company providing NBC with live streaming video of the Beijing Olympics. Mike, I think it's crazy that NBC is deciding to delay the events on TV, so I'm glad that you guys are providing this option.
Oh, well, we're really glad to be part of the project, too. I mean, NBC is being, in our opinion, quite brave with the scale of what they're trying to do. And it's really going to set a new precedent for what the internet can do to augment regular television. So we're really excited to be part of it.
You know, the only event that I ever really pay attention to is gymnastics. So I was on the website today and I saw that you guys are providing a live stream of the training for gymnastics before the events ever start. And I thought that was really cool because people love that behind the scenes kind of stuff. So is that going to be provided for other events?
A lot of it's going to depend on, for each event, some of the training and so forth, some of the practices aren't going to be available at all. More on a, not on a technical level at all, but more on decisions that are made by the individual athletes and what they want seen. I mean, especially on some of the performance competitions where they're going to be trying to keep their routines a little bit more secretive up front. I don't think you're going to be seeing that at all.
I guess that makes sense.
But I mean, this is the great thing that the internet allows us to do as well, is that, events, things that you wouldn't normally see, all the preparation and so forth, when there aren't main events going on. This is a perfect opportunity for it to be shown.
Tell us a little bit about the compression that you're using to provide this so that people can watch it.
Certainly. Well, what NBC made a decision early on that they wanted to work with Microsoft and Silverlight, which uses the VC1 compression. And there were a lot of challenges, though, that came along the way in compressing the video. These days streaming media is so common, people tend to take for granted. It's not that hard to get video in and web streams out. But what NBC is trying to do with all the simultaneous channels and some of the constraints that come with broadcasting from the Olympics made that a lot more challenging than you might think. When we first got involved in the project, or first heard the project was coming, our assumption would be it'd be like a traditional event where a main feed was beamed over satellite back to the US, and then you'd encode it and push it out and off you go.
That would be what people would think, right?
Exactly, and what we learned instead is it was a lot more daunting than that, because NBC actually has it all set up in Beijing. And instead of doing all the pre-switching and predetermining of content and then feeding it out, they're feeding as many as 30 simultaneous live event streams back over from Beijing, and then putting the control in the hands of the user, which we can talk about a bit. But the way it works in traditional broadcast, when you're at the Olympics, there's the International Broadcast Center, which is where all of the international broadcasters who have rights set up all their equipment and do all their processing and then beam everything back to their viewers. And because it's a shared environment, it puts a lot of constraints on the space, on the power, they even restrict heat dissipation that you can come off your computers. So it became quite a challenge, actually, being able to compress the number of streams that NBC wants to feed in the limited amount of physical and computer constraints that we were allotted. So a lot of challenges there. And
how long did it take you to go through that process of figuring out how to overcome all of these challenges?
Well, we started, we officially got the project back in February. And we've been working on it, and with a relatively short time frame, in that NBC wanted a lot of time to do testing and everything else. But, we spent quite a few months actually refining the process. I mean, getting the core done and just making it work was one thing.
Yeah.
But for a broadcaster like NBC, they want to protect their brand. And that means maintaining the highest visual quality possible at all times. And that's something, so refining that, doing all the QA cycles and everything, there were months of work involved in that.
And is there a possibility that things will go wrong, that, there are too many people watching the stream?
Well, that's something that's a little bit outside of our scope. I mean, what we're doing, just to give you some background as well, we have systems over there that can take upwards of 100 discrete live signals. So these could be live signals from, there aren't 100 different events, but different events, different camera angles of the same event and so forth. We're taking each of them and encoding it into 3 different sizes and bit rates of stream. And then those hundreds of streams come back across the Pacific Ocean into the US. And Limelight is the content delivery network that they're using for it. But from our perspective, we have to push out all these 300 streams over a constrained pipe and get all this encoding done. That's our challenge.
Right.
And then once it gets over on, into the U.S., that's where the internet issues come into play. And certainly there are always going to be the possibility of risks and challenges related to that delivery. On a very macro level, if you look at a typical corporation, you're going to have a situation where there's dozens, maybe even hundreds of employees within a company who just want to have a video window open on their desktop all day and see the Olympics going by. And what you could find quite easily, though, is that'll easily saturate a lot of the routing systems and internet connections coming into a company. That's just on a macro level. And then you start expanding out from there. It's going to be a challenge.
You mentioned that you were using Microsoft Silverlight. Flash is typically the choice on the internet for web video. What are the advantages of Microsoft Silverlight?
Well, I mean, actually, from our perspective, Silverlight and Flash are both sort of the wrapper, the player mechanism, the experience that goes around the video. Video being the part that we're really that's our core competency. But from our perspective, really it comes down to the user experience in the end. And ultimately, once everybody has the plugin on their system, it can be completely transparent as to whether it's Flash or Silverlight they're viewing on. And there's been a lot of talk about, people will have to download the Silverlight player and so forth. Well, everybody gets used to downloading 40 megs plus of Adobe Reader, every time Adobe does an update to that. That's become quite commonplace, and it's no harder than that.
Okay.
There are differences in how you create the experience, program the experience, and so forth.
Sure.
A company called Schematic did all the programming of the Silverlight player. But at the end of the day, the user shouldn't know whether they're on Silverlight or Flash or any other platform. It should just be a fantastic interactive experience.
If people aren't able to get it live, will they be able to watch it later?
Most definitely. NBC is making thousands of hours available on demand as well.
Okay.
All of the live stuff that they stream will be available on demand subsequently, and there will be some additional on-demand content that wasn't streamed live, stuff they've prepackaged, athlete profiles and so forth.
And people can get all of that at NBCOlympics.com, correct?
NBCOlympics.com, correct.
And people can find out more information about Digital Rapids at digital-rapids.com. Thank you so much, Mike.
Thank you. Thanks very much for having me, Kelly.
Hey, I'm Callie Lewis. You're watching Geek Brief TV. This is Brief 406.
Cut.
What?
Take two.
What did I do?
Action.
Hey, I'm Callie Lewis. You're watching Geek Brief TV. This is Brief 406. What did I do? I didn't do anything wrong. I did nothing wrong.